so many promises and things that we cannot see, and so it's no one have ever seen God. The Bible, if you open the Bible, God gave everyone one obvious evidence all through his life to show God's existence. And the Bible is better, more reliable than our dreams to be the guide.
Does it really mean to be spiritual?
You know, some words in the Bible or in our conversation are very commonly used, but the meaning is always vague. So one of the words is spiritual or spirituality. And if we use the Bible as a way for our definition, then it can be easier. If you gotta open your Bible to Romans chapter 7, verse 12. And there you will see what is spiritual right there.
Jadi hukum Taurat adalah kudus dan perintah itu.
Oh, I'm sorry. Romans 7, verse 14.
Alright, verse 14. Sebab kita tahu bahwa hukum Taurat adalah rohani, tetapi aku bersifat daging, terjual di bawah kuasa dosa.
So, according to this Bible verse here, the law is spiritual. And our flesh is carnal, and so whatever is in harmony with the law of God, that's spiritual. So when we say spiritual life, or someone is very spiritual, we simply say he's living a life according to the law of God, which is spiritual.
Why is it hard to have faith in God?
Well, it's simply because we depend on our senses too much. Sometimes we like the food, it tastes good, we eat, and sometimes we see and then we believe. But there's so many promises and things that we cannot see, and so no one have ever seen God. All we know about Him is His creation, His Word. So we don't see Him face to face. So it's hard to grasp that God is there. We tend to depend on our senses, but faith in God, it goes beyond our senses. So that is something that we have to practice so that we can build upon our faith beyond. We need to understand our senses are limited. So something needs to go beyond our senses, and that is what faith takes.
Do Christians have to obey the Old Testament law? Because they say when Jesus died on the cross, He put an end to the Old Testament law. Based on some verses, Romans 10:4, Galatians 3, verse 23 to 25, and Ephesians 2, verse 15. What do you say?
I think the question might be based upon Romans 10, verse 14. Or Romans 14.
Romans 10, verse 4?
I think it's Romans 14.
Oh.
Hold on a second. Romans 10, verse 4. At the end of the law is Jesus.
Yes.
Now, the end of the law is Jesus, which basically means the purpose. The purpose of the law. The direction of the law is Jesus. Because the law is like the mirror. It shows your problem, but the law cannot hear you. So we go to hospital today, and you can do the X-ray or whatever, but the machine cannot hear you. The machine will guide you, show your problem, and then guide you to a doctor. And in this case, the law, the purpose, the end of the law is Jesus. It shows not only our problem, it also shows the solution. And Jesus, because Jesus is a living law. His life, His example, He come here to show us what is the way that God expects and how to live it. So that would be a better way to understand Romans 10 verse 4.
What does it mean to speak in tongues? Can I speak in tongues?
In the Bible, we have the first recording about people speaking different tongues in the Tower of Babel, where when people were all speaking the one language and they were building the Tower of Babel to honor their own names, and God sent the angels to confound the languages. So each was given a different tongue, different language. So in this case, we can see the language can be given through the ministry of angels. Now in the New Testament, we also see when Jesus ascended to heaven in Acts chapter 2, and when the disciples, you can read Acts chapter 2 verse 3 and 4, and where the disciples were waiting in the upper room, and then the Spirit came down and like the fire. Now that they start to speaking in tongues. So that is also another gift from God, but also ministered through the angels to give them the ability to speak in different tongues. The reason for that is because Jesus asked them, now you are ready to go to other nations. Before he said, you only go to Israel. But now when he ascended to heaven, he said, all power is given to me. All power in heaven and on earth is given to me, but now you can go into all nations. But the first problem when you go to a different nations is the language. You cannot communicate. So the first gift after he ascended is that you wait to receive the power from the Holy Spirit, and that the Holy Spirit gives them the speaking in tongues. So they speak foreign language, so they can carry the gospel to other nations. Now that is a real need at the time, and that also had the historical background. Now today it's probably still be possible that if there is a need and the Spirit, the Lord think it is necessary to empower a particular person in a certain setting to give this person the Spirit, the gift of tongues, that's possible. But if there's no need, everyone speaks the same language, or you're speaking in a language that nobody understands, then it destroys the purpose. Because the speaking tongue in the Bible they are all real human language. It is not the language that nobody understands. So I think it's still possible that people can still speak in tongues today, but that is also depending on how the Spirit judges the situation, whether they extended this gift or not. It's not as though everybody all of a sudden all speaking tongue and nobody knows what that means. And also in a language nobody uses, that would be a different situation.
In the book of Revelation 14, there are 3 angel messages. But in the book of Revelation 18, it states another message or the fourth angel. So the question is, the first here, is the angel mentioned in the Revelation 18 is one of the 3 angels stated in Revelation 14?
I think that is a very interesting question. And if you study Revelation, you will see this is a book have more description about the activities of the angels. And in the beginning, it mentioned these letters to the 7 churches, and each letter is given through the angel of the church. So 7 churches, 7 angels. And then we also see that the 7 angels were blowing the 7 trumpets. So again you see the 7 angels. Later, the last mission is given to the angels. We can also see the 7 last plagues were also given to the 7 angels. Now, you can see 7, 7, 7 here. Now, in Revelation 14, we only see 3 angels. So what happened? Why is there only 3? Where are the rest? Now, if you read Revelation 14 in the beginning, verse 1 to 5, it talks about 144,000. Now, in Revelation 7, it's also talking about 144,000. Over there are 4 angels holding the wind of the 4 corners of the earth. And then these 144,000 will be sealed by a different angel. Now, when the 4 angels holding the wind, the other 3 preach the gospel. The 3 angels' messages. 4 angels plus 3 is 7. So there are 7 angels in a set. So these are the same angel that blow the 7 trumpets. These are the same 7 angels that give the last plagues. But the Revelation 18 is another different angel. Just like in the Revelation 7, there's already 4 over there. But then still, the 3 are flying in the air, giving a loud cry, but yet there is a different angel that's sealing the people. So we can see in Revelation 18 would be a different angel. The Bible actually said that is a mighty angel. In Revelation there are 3 sets of angels. It says one of the angels, one angel as second, another angel. And then it says as first and second. And then sometimes it say a mighty angel, another mighty angel. So that is one of the mighty angels. It's not part of the 7 angels or the 3 angels.
The second question, how do you respond the 4th angel message?
The 4th one in Revelation 18, if you want to call that the 4th angels, he doesn't have a new message. He's coming with the same message of the 2nd angel's message. It's coming out of her because Babylon is fallen. Don't stay in because God is going to punish this system. So better come out. So he's preaching the same message as what is already preached, proclaimed through the 2nd angel's.
Yes.
But it's with more power. And if you want to go a little more complicated, when an angel coming down from heaven, and that's indicating the power from the Holy Spirit is coming to pour upon the church with a message. So we can say that actually is what the Bible normally say as the latter rain. So the 4th angels in Revelation 18 is come with the latter rain. But I think that's enough for this question.
We have another question. How can we recognize God's voice?
That's a very practical question. Now, we recognize means we use our mind to think. And the Bible said we need to build a relationship with God. So in other words, God put His law in our mind. So we use our mind to think. Now, what would be in your mind then? Well, we have basically, when we were naturally born, we have our own mind. We think in our own terms. And sometimes we follow our own mind. But when we are born again, God put His law into our mind. And so when we hear, how can we recognize God's voice? When we read the Bible and keep on putting His word into our mind, we're getting familiar with the will of God. Then that train our mind to think in terms of God's law, God's way. Then it's easier when we are familiar with God's word, and that's easier to recognize His voice.
Okay, the next one. Do dreams have meaning?
In the Bible, we can see God gave dreams. And actually, the prophets, if they are given a vision at night, is normally come in the form of a dream. But if in the day is a vision, they can see. So dreams do have meaning. But we need to be careful. that because we can always dream today.
Yes.
And some people are daydreaming and some people are night dreaming. And so, yes, it has meaning, but let's not use our dream to be our guidance for our life. And the Bible is better, more reliable than our dreams to be the guide. In this case, I like to remind the verse Peter said, when he was in a holy mountain to be with the Lord, to see the transfiguration. And he said, I have seen that personally, but we still have a more sure word of a prophecy. We have a more sure word of the Bible. That can be a better guidance for our life.
So some people, when they have dreams, they go to a fortune teller and then they explain, I had dreams like this last night, and then can you tell me what it means? Does God use that?
Humans are interesting, and for every culture there are some fortune telling. I am a Chinese. Chinese are very superstitious, and it's interesting. I don't know how it is here done in Indonesia, but Chinese, normally, if they have a dream, to go to a blind person, to let the blind person to interpret the dream, to feel your palm or tell you your future. Now, they couldn't even see what's in front of them. How can they see your future? So sometimes I feel like it's very ironic. I don't deny that the Bible, God does give dreams to guide people. But if He does give dreams, He also gives interpretation. Just like in the Bible, in the case of Daniel, He gave a dream, gave a vision. But when Daniel prayed, he also gave the interpretation. And in the case of the Pharaoh, he had a dream. God also gave interpretation to Joseph. So if you have a dream and you wonder where does the dream come from, you can pray to God. Maybe if it's from God, God can tell you the meaning. But we should never let our dream or our life experience to be the guidance, to be the authority of our life. Never allow anything to replace the authority of the Bible to be our guidance.
Amen. I doubt God, but in my heart, actually, I believe God. Can you give me inspiration?
The Bible, if you open the Bible, God gave everyone one obvious evidence all through his life to show God's existence, to show God's power. That is to allow us to feel hunger. When Adam was created, and the only instruction, the first instruction God gave him is tell him what to eat, what not to eat. In other words, he's going to feel hungry. When he feels hungry, he couldn't sustain himself. He has to go out and get something to supply for his need. It is the same way today. Whether you believe in God or not, when you get hungry, you realize you couldn't do anything out of your own body. It simply means that you cannot support your life. Whosoever gives the supplies for your life, that's the one you should be thankful. So we still feel hungry today. After 4 or 5 hours, it's another reminder coming from God. That's the time you should think that you are depending on God for existence, not depending on yourself. So if we humble ourselves, knowing that even for our existence, we depend on something that's not from us, then we should seek for the provider of all what we need to gradually show our gratitude and build our faith in Him.